Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So many of you guys have been asking to see more armor regen builds. And armor regen is actually a really good attribute to have on any build, in my opinion. It helps out a ton with survivability, especially if you're running higher difficulty content as a solo player. So for some of you who shy away from higher difficulty, like heroic for example, these builds may give you the confidence you need to start running content on heroic. Because the survivability is there, right? As well as the damage. And with one of the builds on this list, you will actually recover over 500,000 armor back per kill. And this is all thanks to the armor on kill bonuses I have stacked. So with that being said, in today's video, I'm going to showcase and break down 3 viable armor regen PvE builds. But just keep in mind, however, that these builds are designed for my playstyle. So since I focus on survivability, I like having mostly armor rolled for my core attributes. So, if you're someone who likes playing with mostly weapon damage core attributes on your builds, then feel free to roll more weapon damage on these pieces. Also, the last build I'll be breaking down for you guys is a powerhouse that has over 240% critical hit damage with almost 100,000 armor regeneration per second. And the best part about it, it's super easy to set up. It's a fantastic armor regeneration build for a beginner, so if you're a newer player and need a solid setup, stick around towards the end of the video for the build breakdown. Okay guys, without further ado, slash the like button and let's get started. Okay, so with this first build, I'm using all high-end pieces except for the backpack. For the backpack, I went with the Memento bag, which many of you should be familiar with, especially if you've been watching my recent build videos. But this bag is actually a viable piece to use for armor regen builds. So basically, at full stacks, the Memento bag adds 30% weapon damage and about 3% armor regen. I also have this build set up with a decent amount of armor on kill bonuses. So that helps with survivability big time. In fact, with all the armor on kill bonuses stacked with this build, I get back over 500,000 armor per kill. Which is crazy, and you might have noticed me getting back huge amounts of armor in these gameplay clips. But if you can just imagine that in combination with the decent amount of armor regen, which I'll show you in a second, the survivability is increased significantly. So for the primary weapon, I'm using the Lexington assault rifle. And I know many of you guys still don't have this weapon, but don't sweat it, because to be honest, there are other great options. Like the F2000, for example, this is a really good alternative for the Lexington. And you can actually craft this weapon at the crafting station if you have the blueprint. But the main thing you want to focus on here is not so much the weapon, but the talent instead. So I'm using the killer talent because since this is an armor regen build that already has great survivability, this talent helps to increase overall weapon damage by granting 70% critical hit damage after eliminating an enemy with a critical hit for a duration of 10 seconds. And this talent can be refreshed after every kill since there's no cooldown. So you're keeping that bonus active for the most part, right? Now for the mask, a Belstone mask with armor core, both critical hit chance and damage attributes, and a critical hit damage mod. And since I have 2 pieces of Belstone, I get the 2-piece bonus, so 1% armor regen and 10% armor on kill. And for the holster, my second Belstone piece rolled with armor core and both an armor regen and critical hit chance attributes. Now for the vest, a Fenris Group AB vest for the bonus 10% assault rifle damage, rolled with weapon damage, both critical hit damage and chance, with a critical hit damage mod. For the talent, Intimidate is a great way to add even more weapon damage. So at full stacks, you're basically getting a bonus 36% increased weapon damage to any target that's within 10 meters of you. So it's great for close to mid-range combat. However, there is a small catch to this. You will need to have bonus armor in order for this buff to activate. So that's why I'm running the Memento exotic backpack. This exotic bag is great because not only does it come with all 3 major core attributes, so weapon damage, armor, and skill tier, but it also provides a huge short and long-term buff. I'll touch more on this bag in just a second, but for the gloves, I'm using the named 511 Death Grips piece, and as many of you guys know, named gear pieces come with either a perfected talent or bonus attribute. So in this case, with the Death Grips gloves, I get a 10% armor on kill bonus, right? Now last but not least, I'm also running the named Emperor's Guard knee pads, rolled with armor and critical hit chance. And just in case anyone's wondering where to get this piece from, these knee pads may drop as contaminated loot in any of the dark zones, or you can try your luck with dark zone proficiency caches or named caches as well. Oh, and if you decide to use the name vector SMG, the Dark Winter, it actually comes with the perfect killer talent. So if you decide to use that, then you can go with a Sokolov vest instead, because Sokolov will give you more SMG damage. So that's another great option, especially if you're more of an SMG run and gun type of player, right? So I'm going to show you guys the stats, but just for those who are new and maybe curious, the Intimidate talent and Memento backpack work really well together because of the bonus armor you get from this backpack. So basically, as you collect trophies upon eliminating each enemy, you will be building stacks and getting both a short and long-term buff. The short-term buff will provide bonus armor and stat increases depending on how many core attributes you have equipped. So, in other words, for each trophy I collect, and since I have 5 armor core attributes equipped with this setup, I get a 50% armor bonus for each trophy. And since I have 2 weapon damage core attributes, I get a 10% weapon damage increase. Same with the skill efficiency, I get 5% because the bag comes with a skill tier. Just keep in mind that this won't stack for each trophy you collect, because that would be insane, right? But it will simply provide armor and refresh the 10-second timer. Now on the other hand, as you're collecting trophies, you're building a long-term buff as well. And that will cap once you collect 30 tags, which is super easy to do. And you will get 1% weapon damage, skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regen for each trophy you collect. So at full stacks, you'll have about 30% weapon damage and 3% armor regen for a duration of 5 minutes. And each trophy will restart this timer, so it's very easy to keep this long-term buff active. Now, for the stats, 50% critical hit chance and 115% critical hit damage. But with the killer talent active, this gets increased to 185. And for the armor on kill, just over 500,000, right? So a little over 519,000, that's how much armor I get back per kill, with over 39,000 armor regeneration per second. So that's pretty good. However, this will increase with the Memento bag, right? So this is the amount of regen I'm getting without the long-term buff from the Memento bag. Now for the modifiers, Tactical Supremacy for the active, and for the passives, Critical Recovery, Fortified Shield, and Aggressive Drone. But if you would rather not use the Striker Drone, then you can swap out Aggressive Drone for Reactive Reinforcement if you're using a Ballistic Shield. Or you can even go with Critical Momentum, the choice is yours. And for the weapon specialization, I went with Gunner for the extra 10% armor on kill. So guys, this next build is another great setup that not only deals out great damage, but also stacks a lot of armor on kill. So it's a well-balanced build with a mix of both tank and DPS properties. This build is much easier to set up. However, the only piece that may be hectic to acquire is the Ninja Bike Messenger bag. Many of you know just how viable this bag is, especially for PvE. Not only does it come with all 3 core attributes, but it's also fantastic for squeezing in extra stat bonuses. This makes it the ultimate piece for setting up some really creative and powerful hybrid builds. So for the primary weapon, I'm using the Chameleon. This weapon has an amazing talent, and you will be getting 3 different buffs that last for 45 seconds. So with the Adaptive Instincts talent, if you land 30 headshots, you get a 20% critical hit chance and 50% critical hit damage bonus. And for landing 65 body shots, you get a 90% weapon damage bonus. And for landing 20 leg shots, you get a 150% reload speed bonus. For the mask, a Foundry Bulwark mask with armor, rolled with critical hit damage and a critical hit chance mod. I'll touch on how this set works in just a second, but for the chest piece, I'm rocking a Golan piece with armor core, armor regen, critical hit chance, and a critical hit damage mod. And for the talent, Obliterate works by increasing your total weapon damage by 1% by landing crits. So landing critical hits will increase your weapon damage, and since this caps at 20, that's an increased 20%. For the holster, a Belstone piece with armor core, regen, and critical hit chance. And for the knee pads, another Foundry piece with armor core and critical hit damage. Then for the gloves, the final Foundry piece with armor core and critical hit chance. And last but not least, the Ninja Bike exotic backpack. So, many of you already know this, but for anyone new, this backpack works by acting as a slot holder in order to meet the requirements of a brand or gear set bonus. So this backpack serves as my second Belstone piece, so I get the 1% armor regen and 10% armor on kill bonus. right? And my second piece of Golan gear for the armor regen. Then I get the fourth piece, Foundry set bonus, makeshift repairs. So I get 10% total armor, 1% armor regen, and 50% shield regeneration stat bonuses. So for those who didn't know, all gear sets come with a 4-piece set talent. And so with the Foundry set, the makeshift repairs talent works by repairing 25% of the damage taken by you or your shield over a 10-second time span. So this is why having a ballistic shield is crucial for this setup. We want to get the most out of this gear set talent, right? And for the secondary skill, you can go with the Reviver Hive if you're solo. For the weapon specialization, Gunner for the armor on kill bonus, and for the modifiers, Tactical Supremacy, Critical Recovery, Fortified Shield, and Reactive Reinforcement. And for the stats, 55% critical hit chance and 81% critical hit damage. The critical hit damage is low, but remember, the Chameleon's Adaptive Instincts talent grants a 50% critical hit damage bonus for landing 30 headshots. But if you don't have the Chameleon, then you can use the F2000, or the Lexington if you have one, and just roll the talent killer. Alright guys, so this last setup is one that I'm sure many of you guys would love. And it's by far the easiest build to set up out of the 3. So for this build, I'm using all high-end gear pieces. It's a great armor regeneration build for beginners. It's well balanced, and with all the critical hit attributes, the damage is really good, and the armor regeneration is pretty high. So, as I've stated before, I like running mostly armor core attributes for my builds, because with my playstyle, I favor survivability, and I can afford to have more armor pieces because my expertise is high. So it's for this reason that I decided to go with the named Everyday Carrier Vest. So this is a named Belstone chest piece, and as many of you know, named gear pieces, vests and backpacks come with perfected talents. So in this case, I get the perfectly efficient talent. Now, with the perfectly efficient talent, I get to use way more armor kits because if you look at how the talent works, using an armor kit has a 75% chance to not consume it. So in other words, you basically have a 75% chance of getting that armor kit back. But if you don't have this chest piece, you can just get a regular Belstone vest and roll either Obliterate if you want some extra damage, or Unbreakable. The regular efficient talent isn't worth using in my opinion. For the mask, a Golan mask with armor core, critical hit damage and chance, and a critical hit damage mod. And for the holster, a Gila guard piece with armor core and crits. So you want to have critical hit damage and chance on every piece, okay? And for the knee pads, another Gila guard piece with armor core and crits. And for the gloves, the second piece of Golan with armor core and crits. Last but not least is the final piece of Gila guard rolled with armor core and crits. So a Gila guard backpack with the talent Adrenaline Rush. This is a great talent that provides bonus armor when you are within 10 meters of an enemy. So you will gain 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times. So it helps a lot with survivability. But not only that, since I have 3 pieces of the Gila set, I get 5% total armor, 60% health, and 2% armor regeneration. And for having 2 pieces of Golan, I get the 1.5% armor regen bonus. I also get 1% armor regen from the Belstone piece as well. Now, for the weapon, again, don't sweat it. If you don't have the Lexington, get an F2000 CTAR or, almost any high-end AR with a decent RPM will work great, and just roll the talent killer on it. For the stats, 51% critical hit chance and 178% critical hit damage. And with the bonus from the killer talent, that goes up to like 240 something. With 91,000 armor regeneration per second. And for the weapon specialization, I went with Firewall for the tactical grip attachment that gives a 15% critical hit damage bonus. I also went with Firewall for the extracellular matrix mesh talent that gives a nice health and armor recovery, which actually gets boosted by the named Everyday Carrier Vest. And for the modifiers, the same as the previous setup. So Tactical Supremacy, Critical Recovery, Fortified Shield, and Reactive Reinforcement. And that will do it for today's video, guys. This is Prajna. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video brought value to you. Try these builds out and let me know what you guys think in the comment section. To all my channel members, I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It means a lot to me. You guys are amazing. Good luck farming, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them for me in the comment section. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and see you in the next video. Peace out, guys.